Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Anne Alston, and it is my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am here again with another amazing speaker. This year is definitely bigger and better than anything that I can imagine, having such wonderful and amazing people on this platform this year. We have 65 speakers in total. You might hear some podcasts where I'm saying 50, but that's because the number just keeps going up. So please stay tuned. Listen to this podcast as well as all the podcasts and check out all the pages that are going to be posted on this platform this year. There's so much good information out there you can't get anywhere else, so please take advantage of this unique opportunity. Just in case you did not know, the purpose of the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast is not only to share our industry information, but we're here to encourage you, the working professional, to enter their line of work. We will also like to take a moment to thank our corporate partners and sponsors who are a family of authors, Butler Armstead Consulting Solutions, Human Resource Learning Center, JNF Enterprises, and Women Offering Wealth, along with many of our business partners and sponsors who's helping to make this event a success. So today we have another amazing speaker who's going to talk about her phenomenal success and all the things that she's doing in terms of speaking and writing and mentoring people. And so I want to bring her on here so she can talk about her story and all the things that she's doing in the community. I want to bring to the podcast Andrea Landry-Brown. She is the founder of an online talk show called We Are One. And We Are One focuses on educating, advocating, and highlighting mental health and recovery. She's an accomplished writer, speaker, and a peer mentor and trainer. She also has a master's degree in psychology who strives to eliminate social and personal stigma regarding mental health. She has also earned an associate's degree in human services and a bachelor's in communication and another master's in psychology. And she's also a University of Phoenix. So I'm definitely happy to have her on here. And I want to encourage everybody to continue reading the bio so that you can learn more about Andrea. So welcome to the podcast, Andrea.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and how did you get into psychology?
Well, my name's Andrea Landry-Brown. Folks around here call me Drea. And let's see, where am I from? I like to say I'm from a little bit of everywhere because I was born in Chicago and I was raised in California, and now I live in Baltimore. And people always tease me and go, how do you go from California to Baltimore? And I'll tell you, sanity. That is the best answer I have for that is sanity. We moved to California when I was 5 years old, so that's about all I know as far as Chicago is concerned. I know about snow and I know about the projects. That's about it. But you asked me about California, I could talk on and on and on and on. So I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, basically Compton, and I have lived up and down the state, as far up as Sacramento and as far down as San Diego, and everywhere in between. And I spent quite a few years in a little tiny town called Bakersfield. It used to be a little one-horse town, but now it's just kind of thriving and everything. But it's still a small town, if you ask me. But Baltimore is where I am right now, doing my thing and really getting to know a lot of the culture and trying to get my foot into how to grow into my own. I am number 3 of the 4 of my mom's children, and I've always been the most rambunctious. If there's anything exciting to do, anything off the wall to do, I did it. I did have a little bit of encouragement from my older brother, who used to take me on the train tracks and have rock fights with me or have me doing off-the-wall stuff like pretending we were Mary Poppins and jumping off the garage with umbrellas. But anything else that was just strange or unusual, I was always the one that came up with that particular idea. And so my mother called me the fun one. She says, if we're going to have a party or if we're going to have anything happening, let's call Drea because she'll make it liven up and everybody will have a good time. So I am a survivor. I have survived multiple bouts of every type of abuse you can name of, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. And so everything came to a head in, say, 2003. I have 2 sons, And my youngest son decided that the grass is greener on the other side and went to go and live with his dad. And it was such a devastating blow to me. I didn't know how to function. I literally became catatonic because my mother had always raised me that when you make your bed, you lie in it. And part of raising my children was the bed that I had made, and I had failed to lie in it because he was leaving me. And then a few months to almost a year later, my older son had the audacity to grow up. I never gave him permission to do that, and I never thought about the fact that it would actually happen. And when
Mm-hmm.
he did, he became 18 and joined the Navy and left me too. So for the first time in my entire life, I was alone and didn't know what to do. I had always thought I was going to be a mother and take care of them and never ever gave a thought as to what to do with myself after they left home. So I found myself in a state of not just shock, but just dismay. I had no identity. I was to a point to where I stopped eating. I stopped going to work. I stopped bathing, just everything. I was just out of it. And I tell you, if my mom didn't have a pair of keys to my house, I'd be dead today because she walked in my house, she dumped a bucket of water on me and told me I needed to go see a therapist. She said, there's more to life than children. You need to get up and take care of yourself. So it took me about a year or so, and then I went to go see my therapist. And as I was talking to this guy who was a real jerk, I was telling him about the things that I was going through and the fact that I was a survivor of being molested and so on and so on. And he asked me this really dumb question. He said, what's the longest you've ever stayed awake? And I told him 7 days straight. He said, you have bipolar disorder. Take this pill. Don't get fat. See you when you come back. I was so angry and so despondent that I just about beat him up. And I thank God that my mother was sitting next to me because if she hadn't have been, I'd have been in jail the next day because that's exactly what I was going to do to him. So it took a year for me to figure out how to accept what he had said to me. And I went and shopped around and got myself a new therapist. And we went through all of these different medication trials, and I was angry about that. And my mom said, why don't you go and look up what bipolar is? And as I was looking at what bipolar is, I learned that I had post-traumatic stress disorder as well. And so I started looking at what PTSD was, and things began to click. And the more they clicked, the more I needed to learn about how to function. Because my personal stigma told me that I had bipolar disorder, PTSD. I was going to be locked up in the hospital forever. They were never going to let me out. I was going to be in the hug me jacket and never be able to function again. And this is what got me into psychology. I
Wow.
started learning more and more about how to take care of me. And the sad part was I couldn't find help in California. I kept looking it up and looking it up. This was 2006. And I could not find anybody to help me in California. And as I did more Google search, I found a school in Baltimore to help me learn coping skills, help me learn more about mental illness, help me learn how to live a different life outside of what I had known. And so therefore I got on the plane and I came to Baltimore, and I've been thriving ever since. Um, I learned coping skills. I learned how to function. I learned how to take care of me. And I learned who Drea was outside of being somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife. So that was a huge jump in that direction on what got me into psychology, basically self-preservation.
Yeah, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that story with everybody who is listening here. I'm pretty certain that there are folks here that know someone who suffers with some type of depression, post-traumatic stress, or bipolar condition. And so, first of all, I want to congratulate and applaud the fact that you took a step to help yourself, that you actually got on a plane and found the right thing that you needed in order to function. And so, going into the next question, just speaking to the people who are listening, what are some of the things that you learned specifically that helped you get through those tight moments, that helped you get through school to get your degrees? Because, for me, I think this is such a phenomenal story about how you're able to just use those coping skills to get yourself through college and to really thrive and grow to what you're doing now. So, if you can speak to the people who are listening about some of the things that you had, the skills that you just talked about, so that others who are going through this can have some encouragement.
Well, the biggest thing was my mom. I grew up in a highly authoritarian type of household. My mom was in college when I was in elementary school, and she graduated with a degree in criminal justice. And she went to go work in the prison system, and then she came out of prison and went to youth authority, which I call baby jail. And then she went from youth authority to parole. So with her, watching her go through all the things that she did as a single mom and trying to raise all of us was one of the biggest inspirations that I had always had. And being a middle child, I always wanted to please her. I always wanted to do something to make her proud of me, because it used to seem like it didn't matter what I did, I could never get to a level to make her proud of me. So I always have her in the back of my head saying, hey, get up. You need to do this. You need to take care of business. You need to pinpoint exactly what it is you're going to do and then make a plan to get there. So that's always playing in the back of my head. What encouraged me, besides her, to go to school was I got a job at Catholic Charities over at my sister's place lodge, which is downtown Baltimore. And I was mingling in this particular place is a homeless shelter for women who live with mental health issues. And I was mingling in with the residents there and helping them cope with what they were going through, cope with their symptoms, helping them find housing and manage their time there at the house. Well, the organization wanted to promote me to case manager assistant, and I fought it tooth and nail. I liked being with the ladies. I didn't want to be in administration, but they pushed me up there anyway. And in pushing me up there, the only education I had was a GED. And so they couldn't pay me what the position was worth. That pushed me into school. So being aware of what some of my symptoms are. I mean, I have anxiety as well as everything else. It's hard for me to sit down for long periods of time. And I thought about going to college because, again, I hear my mom always in my head, you need to go to school. You need to take care of business. You need these things because it's going to propel you forward in life. I thought, well, what college could I go to that I could actually get to class on time, be able to maintain my grades, and focus, because sometimes I don't focus very well. And I couldn't reason with myself that I could actually sit and go to a college campus. And I had a friend who was a student at University of Phoenix, and he's like, well, check this out. And that's what made me go there. And I wanted to get my degree in human services. And I'm telling you, that first 2 weeks was like hell on wheels. I didn't want to go. I couldn't find the answers to my questions. I almost threw my computer up against the wall. My
Yeah.
anxiety was out the roof. It was just, oh my God, what have I
Yeah.
done?
Right, right. Classes are like that. No matter what, classes will send you like that at Phoenix, yes.
So what got me through was music and that little voice in the back of my head being my mother. You know, you signed yourself up for this. This was another bed I had made. It was time for me to lie in it. So I would set up times and dates to when I was going to do my schoolwork. You know, things had to be in by Monday, so I would start on Wednesday. And since everything was online, that means that I could do it at my leisure time. I could do it as long as I had it in by midnight of the day it was due, I was good. And that helped me get through. And yes, there were times when my anxiety had gotten so high that I had to walk away for a couple days sometimes, and I would have to talk to my teachers and say, listen, I live with bipolar disorder. Please work with me as I'm turning in my papers. And they tried to refer me to the special thing that the college has. I can't think of the name for it now, where you let them know that you have disabilities and they give you extra time. And I was telling them, I said, no, I don't want to register for that because I know me. I procrastinate. If you give me extra time, I'll still screw it up. So I have to stay on everybody else's time. If that means that you deduct points from me, then again, that's me lying in my bed. I just have to take that. But right now, in the meantime and in between time, please work with me. And if they couldn't, then I just take the points off and keep on going forward. But the way for me to work through my anxiety was music. I would play my music, I would sing through it, or I would walk away for a little bit, calm myself down, practice my coping skills, which would be the meditation, or I would reach out to my support system, which would be calling my mom or talking to some of my friends, going to my therapist, and then come back and get back on the paperwork. There were times I was homeless and I would be sitting in my car at the beach doing my homework. It was sometimes the homework was a good way to get over the anxiety because it gave me something else to focus on. So I can honestly say I went through 6 years of college straight, and it was tough. It was harrowing, but I'm so glad I'm done.
Yes. Well, first of all, congratulations on just finding that mechanism that worked best for you to deal with anxiety and whatever it is that was challenging to you. I know that what you went through was a milestone. I can't even tell you how much I understand and relate to what you're saying. But I want to, first of all, congratulate you on that and definitely want to make sure and encourage you to keep doing what you're doing because so many others who are listening to this podcast is probably wow, just like I am right now, and feeling very encouraged that if they are going through similar situations, that they can find a way to get through it. And so, thank you for sharing that. So, talk to us now about We Are One, your talk show, and how did you come up with that concept and what you do for that program?
The news was actually my inspiration for We Are One. I remember, what year was that? Um, the guy that set up the technical school, and I'm trying. I think it was Virginia Tech. Yes, the guy that went on to Virginia Tech and he shot up the school. The first thing that the newscaster said was he had mental problems. And then there was another guy that shot up the movie theater. And the first thing the newscaster said was he had mental problems. And it seemed like every time I turned on the news, somebody else was either fighting or shooting or whatever else. And it wasn't that, oh, they had a bad day or they were planning this forever. No, the first thing they would say is mental problems caused this. And you ever seen a cartoon and you see the cat that like
The
have a
top,
spiny kind of sense and a
yeah,
chill goes up their spine?
right.
Well, every time I saw those news reports, that's how I felt. And it's like, no, no, no. There's so many of us out here who are walking amongst you, who are in the crowd. People you could be walking right next to in an elevator or getting on a bus could have a mental health issue and you would never know it. They're not holding you up. They're not shooting you up. It made me so angry that there was no positive. There are no positive images that show that people with mental illnesses are thriving in business, in relationships, in work, in everything that they are doing. Even though they are going through whatever it is they're going through, they're still thriving. It's very few that you see out there actually committing crimes. So the purpose for We Are One was to give that positive face, to show that there are individuals out there like going to colleges and going through their schooling and going to each class. Yes, they're nervous about this new test. Yes, they're having anxiety about the teacher who always marks up all their paper in red and never says anything nice, or the student that they're sitting next to who is only being nice to them because they're in that class, and they're being depressed behind that, but they're still striving, they're still going through, they're still reaching for their potential and what it is they want to accomplish in life. That was the purpose for We Are One. I have done several different interviews with couples who have talked about. Um, I had a couple who both individuals live with mental health issues, and they talked about how they support one another through their symptom management. When one is having a real bad time, the other one is providing the coping skills or the meditation skills or whatever that person needs to be able to function. I did another interview with a couple where one had mental illness and the other had substance abuse issues, and they talked about how the substance abuse issues and the mental health collided, but yet and still how they relied on God to carry them through, and they used their various coping skills to make their marriage a success. You know, they own a business. I believe she's a hairstylist, and he has a construction business, I believe. I've done interviews with the VA, the head of the mental health department at the VA department, and he talked about how their wraparound services are helping our veterans who are coming back from combat and going out into society and being successful civilians. You know, letting them know that these services are available for them to help them continue to live their lives the way that they want to. You know, just showing that there is a positive face. The fact that there are so many celebrities now coming out and telling people, yes, I've lived with depression, even for a short time, or yes, I go through anxiety. And my favorite, Miss Jennifer Lewis, who talks about her bipolar, you know, she's got a one-woman show where she's discussing some of the things that she goes through. I needed to show that positive face. People need to see that we're not the demons and the monsters under the bed. We're just like them.
Wow, that is definitely, first of all, I'm just floored. I am. I'm almost speechless, really, because you're so correct. We all we see in the news is what people say that they're doing, and it may be contributed to either drugs, alcohol, or mental illness, but we don't see all the positive things that people are doing who are living with mental illness. And I really would love for this platform to be a space where you can further let people know that you have a platform that talk about these types of things and really showcase all of the good things that people are doing for the community and being an inspiration for people. And I'm just really, really happy that you're on this podcast, and that I want everybody who's listening to this podcast to please just reach out. If you know someone who's also doing good work, get on We Are One. Get on this platform and talk about what is that you're doing that's helping the community and yourself. So, Drea, I'm gonna call you Drea for short, right? So you
Yes,
are
thank you.
a you are also a writer. So talk about your self-published book, What's in a Name, and Crazy Conversation.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with a program called WRAP. It's Wellness Recovery Action Plan. It was created by Mary Ellen Copeland. And basically what WRAP is when you're feeling well and you're feeling good, you write down what that looks like. You write down the processes that you go through to help yourself get to that point. So when you find yourself at a point to when you're not feeling well, you can refer back to that. That is your action plan to help you get back to a place of wellness. I was going through a class and getting my certification to teach that particular program when I was inspired to write What's in a Name. Um, One thing that I've noticed in the mental health work that I've been doing since, wow, 2008, is that a lot of times when you talk to folks, they'll say, hi, I'm bipolar, or hi, I'm depressed. You know, they don't say, hi, I'm Carol, or hi, I'm Ben. So the what's in the name is basically bringing you back to the individual that you were before you were diagnosed. Um, the different chapters go through and help you re identify who you are. For example, I believe in chapter one it says, who are you? What's your name? What do people call you? What are your nicknames? You know, I don't know about you, but I have like a whole bunch of them. My family calls me one thing, my friends call me another, my husband calls me something else. You know, there's a nickname that comes from each and every person to show their either their disdain for you, their love for you, their like for you, or just a joke. I like Drea because it feels to me as though it brings out my fun and silly side, you know. But my mom, when she's mad at me, she calls me Andrea. I hate being called Andrea because I'm always thinking someone's correcting me.
Oh, oh,
You
it's
know,
a pretty
or
name. It's like my name, Anissa, so it's a pretty name.
thank you. I like Andrea, but I don't like Andrea.
Andrea. Okay. Well, I have a
Yeah.
whole lot of name pronunciations I can't even go into, but I just think that anytime that you can take your skills and turn it into a tool, people are going to hear me say this on the podcast several times. Just the books that you've written that will help someone, find a way to deal with things and have different principles. Get the tool, get it. You just never know. And even if you don't suffer with bipolar or anxiety, it's still good to just do a self check and a self identity, as you said. We all need to just do a step back and reevaluate who we are as a person and what we're doing and why we do what we do. And anything that we have doubts about, it is always a good idea to pick up one of the books that is on this podcast and just say, you know what, I think this principle or I think this tool can help me. And I really think that that's an awesome idea that you came up with the book.
Thank you. And especially when it comes to, like what you said, with what your name is and who you are. Because it doesn't matter if you have mental illness or substance abuse issues or a regular physical illness. The fact that we tend to identify ourselves as the illness itself takes away from self preservation, because you are an individual in spite of and despite of all that other stuff. You are still you. And that's why in What's in the Name, the chapter 3, where it says diagnosis, the end of life as you know it, because depending on the diagnosis, well, most diagnosis is like, oh my God, that part of my life is ended. When you have cancer, one of the first things that comes into your mind is it detrimental to my health, or can I get rid of it? And then you become, I am cancer. I have cancer. Oh my God, what am I going to do with this? And some people will go and live their lives like it's the last day of their lives, and some people will just shut down. But the What's in the Name workbook helps you to identify those things and still remember, okay, yes, I'm living with these disorders. I'm living with these illnesses, these diagnoses, but I'm still a person here. I have dreams. I have aspirations. I have ambitions. And I still want to reach out for, whether they call it the bucket list, I still want to reach out for my bucket list and do what makes me feel good, do what makes me happy. And then they develop coping skills accordingly. At the end of the book says recovery and beyond, you know. So what are some of those things that you have done to help you in your recovery? For me, myself, some of the things that help me in my recovery, music is a huge part of my life. Smokey Robinson just happens to be my favorite musician of all time. And I will sing my way through anything, whether I'm making up lyrics or whether I'm actually singing the lyrics that are there. And then, of course, there is my higher power, because I am a Christian to my heart. But the beyond goes past what the diagnosis is, and it helps me reach out to those resources that are there, whether it be rap, whether it be NAMI, whether it be other different programs that just happen to be in whatever city I choose to be in, whether I'm in California, Maryland, Illinois, or Georgia. Um, What's in the Name has been such a huge outbreak for me because it was a way of self-discovery. I'm not bipolar. I am Drea. I live with those disorders. I have to manage through those disorders, but they don't define who I am.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dre, I want to turn the conversation over to people in the workplace. And because one of the points you made early on in the podcast is that there are so many people walking around with some type of mental illness to some degree, and people don't even know it. And so, I kind of want you to give your expertise or your thoughts behind how managers should be able to deal with people who they suspect that may have mental illness, or they know they have mental illness, and the best practices to being able to work with them. I think it's very important that we touch on that aspect, being though we are businessmen and women of color, but I also want to touch on the employment part of it, because a lot of people don't understand how we have to cope with different types or different levels of mental illness. And so, can you share a little bit of your thoughts on that?
Yes, it's all about education. I remember I applied for this job. It was an answering service in San Diego. And one thing I always do is I self disclose. And the reason why I self disclose is because I go through anxiety, and there are times when I have to have a little time for myself to regroup so that I can function. So I tell every single employer exactly what I have, what I'm going through, and what to expect from me so that they can know how to work around me or work with me. And one of the things I told this potential employer was that I had post traumatic stress disorder. And one of his stigmatic views were the only people who have that are military people. So the first thing he asked me was, what branch of service did I serve in? And I told him I didn't serve in the military. So I had to school him in what PTSD was and how you can get it. So you asked me about employers. I've had many, many jobs over my little short life. And I'm ashamed to say that, but it is the truth. And it took me a really long time to figure out why I couldn't hold a job for longer than a year or longer than 6 months or so. And it was because of the extremes of my symptoms that I were going through. And at that time, I didn't know, so I couldn't explain to my employer why I was behaving the way I was behaving. So the HIPAA laws are in place, and the what is it, the American Disabilities Act is in place so that the employers can't discriminate against you if you have a disability and you disclose that to them. Okay. There are some people who are open enough that they will accept and work with you, and there are some people who are closed minded and don't choose to do that. The best thing I can say is to work with them as best as you can. I feel comfortable in disclosing because in my disclosure, I'm educating them and telling them, listen, I have bipolar disorder. That does not mean that I'm going to come in here and shoot up the place. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go off on you. What it means is there may be times when I need time to take care of me. I am a good worker. I have great credentials, and I give them my referrals and let other people talk for me as far as my work ethics. But I'm always educating them and letting them know, okay, if you see me taking deep breaths, that is me working through my anxiety. If you see me looking like I stuck my finger in an electric socket, okay, I may be going through a manic phase right at that moment, which means I may talk really fast and I may seem really energetic. Just give me a few moments, let me calm myself, and I will get back to work. But you never ever have to worry about how my work is going. 9 times out of 10, you won't even see me go through the symptoms, especially when it comes to depression, because I don't like people to see me depressed. I don't like to see them to see my frown or the sadness in me. So I work through that and I help them understand it. If it gets to a point to where it's overwhelming and I can't handle, then I go back to my employer and I tell them, okay, this is the time that I have that I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. So can we let my day be a little light, or I may take off work a little bit early, but we have already established that understanding way ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important to just do that. And I like the fact that you do that. I don't know how many people feel really comfortable in disclosing for the fear that they may or may not get the job. But I think I want to add one other thing or one other element to that list. It's just having the acceptance that if the person you're trying to get a job with says no, to just
Mm-hmm.
have an acceptance. And I don't think it has anything to do with the bipolar. It could be their specific situation or their work environment may not be set up to handle someone with a condition. And I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people who I've come in contact with, they are trying to get jobs. They're going through some sort of anxiety because either they're not working. And if someone, like you said, goes in and they disclose certain things about them, one of the things you have to do is accept the answer, either yes or no. And most of the
Mm-hmm.
times, if it's a no, which you'll get a lot of no's before you get a yes, for the job.
That's true.
You still have to accept the fact that it's not about you. It's about what they need for that job. And I want to remind everybody who's listening to also keep that in mind too, Drea, is that the job that you're seeking is not always about you. It's about what they need to fill the position. And I think if people kind of keep that in their mind as they go through this process, then it's going to be even better for them.
I agree. I agree. And sometimes, if there is a no, the job is probably not meant for you, and there's something better coming. If you choose not to disclose and you're still going through the symptoms, then maybe there is a different way that you can let your employer know that you may need a little me time. Maybe during your lunchtime, you take a little meditation time. I just learned about a new app on the phone called Calm, and that helps to really calm you down from anxiety thoughts. It plays like nature type of music, like waterfalls or birds chirping, what have you. And it also kind of walks you through a little meditation that you can do in like a 20-minute lunchtime, what have you, to help bring you back into a place where you can function at work when you don't choose to disclose. Um, Same thing when it comes to during your interviews, like what you were saying, Anne. If you choose not to disclose and you want to let the employer know that you have really good work ethic and that you are dependable, continue to give the employer those that information. And then after you get the job, seek out their EAP program or find out about their EAP program. And the EAP program uh, put you with a therapist or put you with health professionals to help you through challenging times. And therefore, you can still be able to work and not have to let everybody else know what it is that you're going through.
All right, fantastic. So, what other initiatives that you are working on that you want the listeners to know about?
I started being a speaker with the National Alliance on Mental Illness back in 2008. And one of the things that really encouraged me to do that was the fact that I didn't know what I had for so many years. I don't know either. They're just as clueless as I was. And I wanted to reach out to those people to show them that they weren't alone. But what really encouraged me was when I found out my baby sister, had ADHD and bipolar disorder. And it seemed as though no matter how many times I reached out to help her, nothing would help. It was her excuse to exhibit bad behavior. She would go out and party and go out and drink. My sister would go and use her bipolar disorder for bad behavior. And I tried to reach out to her and try to help her get through things and give her resources and tell her different ways to use coping skills. Well, I lost her September 15th, 2010. She accidentally overdosed on her medication and meth. And it hit me so hard that I was determined that I didn't want to lose another person. So for every life that I can touch to let them know that they are not alone in their fight, they are not alone in their struggles, then I know that helps me grow just that much further, and it helps me reach out to just that much more many people. And I see my sister's face in each and every one of those individuals.
Wow.
And okay, I just started getting the Crazy Conversation going as a 5-week course. And Crazy Conversation is like the sister workbook of What's in the Name. Only it breaks down what crazy is and what crazy means and takes the ambiguity. Well, not necessarily the ambiguity out of it, but takes the stigma out of what it means. And it goes on more of a spiritual note. I'm going to be facilitating that at my church at Morning Star Baptist Church starting July 6th through August 3rd, and everyone's welcome. It's not just for members; anyone can come. And as I said before, it's got lots of scripture in it to help you manage with symptoms and to let you know that having a disorder or an illness is not a curse. It's not a punishment. One scripture that I really love in there, which was the Psalms 139:16, just explained to me that God knew what he was doing when he created me. He knew what I was going to be going through. He had it already written down in the book, all the days that I was going to be going through it. So to be able to reach to him when I'm having depression or having anxiety or even going through some of my mania, which I just happen to really like. All of that energy is wonderful.
Right.
um, I know that I can reach out to him and he can help me get through no matter what difficulty I go through. So I'm really excited about those particular classes. And the really cool thing about the Crazy Conversation is that there is there's a place in there that helps you write down certain prayers, but it has a list to where you can write down crisis planning. So when
Okay.
you find yourself in a crisis, you can plan your way out of it. You can write down what it is that you're going through, and then you already have different scriptures that you can go to help you come out of it, or you'll have names of your support system, names and phone numbers that you can reach out to people to help you come out of those crisis situations to keep you in a good place.
Okay. So, last question, Drea. What do you need for either yourself or we are one to thrive?
Oh wow. I hadn't really thought about that. Um, I need to know that each and every person is receiving what they need. One thing I've learned in doing the presentations that I've done, whether it be in front of law enforcement, in front of businesses, or in front of families, is that when I've helped someone open their eyes and see that mental illness is not as bad as we think, that it's not that monster under the bed. It kind of reminds me of that movie, the Disney picture about Sully and Mike Wazowski. They come out scaring the children and making the children scream just to make their city thrive when they don't realize that laughter makes their city thrive a whole lot better. I see mental illness a lot like that. You know, um, there's so many unknowns and everyone is afraid of the unknown because you truly just don't know what to expect or what to happen. Every single person on this planet goes through something, whether you are having a good time, a bad time, a sad time, tears, whatever. You go through something. And in going through that something, you are finding different ways to bring you back to a place that makes you feel good. Well, mental illness is exactly the same thing. You know, we're going through something and we're trying to find that happy place where we can stand upright and put a smile on our face. And if I'm out there talking to you or advocating with you, I am educating you in a way to show you that it's not as scary as you think it is. It's almost quote unquote normal.
I want to say one thing though. I will say that I do agree for me, myself, I do agree that it is sort of almost quote unquote normal because honestly, everyone, every single person on this planet suffers with some type of anxiety, some level of mental illness, some more than others. But as you said, we need to have that happy place. We need to have mechanisms and things in our life that's going to help us cope with rejection or anxiety or depression or even a tad or two of bipolar or whatever it is that we scientifically call it. Okay. But we all have to have some type of way of coping with these challenges. And so you've actually created a platform where people can come and let out whatever it is that they're thinking and feeling. And so I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You really have something there that I think everybody needs, everybody should take advantage of. And so I'm going to encourage everybody on this platform to just reach out to you with their questions or just refer people who they know they may need someone to answer questions or to encourage them to just keep moving and seeing the strength that you are presenting on this podcast. I really do believe that you're going to be able to change lives. And so I want to thank you today for being so candid and sharing your story and all about We Are One and all the things that you're doing. I just want to applaud you for that. And I also want to remind everybody to check out all the pages and listen to all the podcasts because, again, you never know what message you may hear may be just for you. So thank you, Andrea, for being on this podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I have thoroughly enjoyed it.